Welcome in everyone to a brand new show, I guess you can call it, in the open mic podcast universe. I don't know if we have a universe, but it's part game show, it's part Wikipedia page, but it is 100% about something you love, whether it's a TV show, whether it's a video game. It could be something as specific as a celebrity, an athlete. It can be something as broad as U.S. government. It's about anything and everything, and it's called the Gauntlet. And today we have a very special guest for our first episode of the Gauntlet. She texted me yesterday that this show was, without a doubt, the greatest show on television. Mm-hmm. She's a huge Green Bay Packers fan, and she has kindly volunteered herself to be our test person for this first episode, to be the first person to run the Gauntlet. Ellen Savarese is going to be running the Gossip Girl Gauntlet today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I hope you go easy on me as I'm your first guest on the show.
Well, I'm going to explain you the rules. So
Okay.
It's going to be 10 questions about Gossip Girl in this case. It could be about anything, but you chose Gossip Girl, a
Okay.
great pick as a super fan.
Thank you.
You are going to have 10 questions. We're going to run through them. There's talking points with each. We're going to kind of talk about Gossip Girl, It's an interview. It's, Trivial Pursuit. It's a Wikipedia page. We're going to do a deep dive into a lot of different things.
Okay.
And the one kind of thing you can call in if you ever need it, we're going to call it a jump ball. So this is going to be something where you can do it, and then I'll give you two options. And you can pick from either option. You can use that once. But other than that, are you ready to get started?
I am.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Here we go. So our first category is going to be voice acting.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure. Yep.
And again, this is about Gossip Girl. So
The greatest show of our time.
greatest show of greatest show of our time. Trademark.
TM.
So we're going to test really your super fan of me. I'm going to give you a softball to start.
Okay.
I'm going to get you warmed up. Mm-hmm. Who served as the voice of the show's omniscient observer, Gossip Girl?
That would be Kristen Bell.
And that's 100% correct.
I think it's a little known fact about her.
Yes.
And
yes.
she has this super deep portfolio, and then she also shows up in the greatest show of our time trademark.
Trademark, yes.
And I've always respected that about her.
So you bring up a good point. Do we put this on the Mount Rushmore of roles for Kristen Bell? Because of
maybe.
Maybe? What do you think?
So she does show up at the end. She gets a little cameo in the last episode.
Yep.
So we can even say that she shows her face on Gossip Girl.
Yes.
And then just to have that much of an influence and a presence on the show, that's just the voice.
Yep.
I hear her in other things, and I'm like, that's Gossip Girl.
Exactly.
It's Kristen Bell, but it's Gossip Girl. So
Totally.
Oh, my Mount Rushmore of Kristen Bell is just Gossip Girl.
It's just all Gossip Girl?
It's all Gossip
Okay,
Girl.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what do we think about, do we think this is from a dollar per words perspective? Is this as high paying as it gets? The only person I could think of when I was researching was Vin Diesel as Groot, saying, I am Groot. But I was thinking from a voice acting perspective and from a legacy perspective, this is probably one of the cushiest roles in Hollywood.
Well,
I don't
it's
know.
so easy because you have to show up in the voice booth for,
2 seconds.
Right, 2 seconds,
Yeah.
you film your little thing, and then you're gone.
Yeah.
Nobody has to see you, you don't have to do hair and makeup, you don't have to show up to set.
Yep.
It's so easy.
Yep.
And also, you're one of the most iconic parts of the show.
Totally.
You get to say all the best lines, but you don't actually have to do any of the hard stuff.
Totally. You just show up. It's like a Zoom call. That's really what it is.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm going to show up in my PJs.
But you get to turn your camera off.
Exactly.
It's the Zoom call when
Exactly.
everyone has the camera off.
And you show up, you're going to say your lines, you're in your PJs, you're in, you're out, and you live on forever, essentially.
Yeah. And again, best lines in the show. I mean, an icon. Thank you, Kristen Bell, for what you have done for me as a person.
Okay. I love that. So
Yeah.
you're 1 for 1. 1 for 1. You're off to a strong start.
I'm batting 1,000 so
You're
far.
batting 1,000 so far. Okay, we're gonna kind of ramp it up, ask a few
Okay.
other tough stuff,
All right.
but it's gonna get fun.
Okay.
So the next category is gonna be tourism, and the question is, where do Blair and Serena love to eat lunch throughout the show?
Well, they sit on the Met steps. Is that
I don't ask you. I just ask questions. You provide answers.
So the show kind of follows them through high school and then into college, where no one ever really goes to class. They just kind of say that they're at college. And when they're in high school, I think their school's really close to the Met, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and they go eat lunch on the Met steps. And so that's my final answer.
That's your final answer? Mm-hmm. You're 2 for 2.
Oh, let's get it!
You're 2 for 2. And so the reason I bring this up is you were a New Yorker.
Yes.
You worked in New York. You lived in New York. What are some of your favorite spots?
Oh my God.
In the Big Apple?
Well, you know what? It's funny that a lot of my perception of New York was sort of formed by Gossip Girl.
Okay.
So I walked past the Met and an actual cultured person would go, wow, some of the greatest art of all time is housed in that building. And I see it as, that is where Serena and Blair would eat lunch.
Okay.
At Juilliard.
I like
or
it.
Or at Constance Billard School for Girls. But my favorite things in New York, I think, I'm a huge restaurant person. I'm a big foodie, so I was trying to find the best cacio e pepe in New York, which is like an Italian Roman dish.
Gotcha.
So I would say my favorite places in New York where I can get a bowl of pasta the size of my face.
Mm-hmm.
More touristy stuff. There's a park on the Lower West Side called the High Line.
Gotcha.
And it used to be, they were essentially abandoned train tracks, and it had fallen into just horrible disrepair. And then a group kind of came through and decided we can make this a park. Like, it's a beautiful space. You've got great views of the city. Mm-hmm. And now it's this incredible green space. There's trees, there's benches, and I love walking along the High Line. So I would say that's probably my favorite spot in New York. Doesn't make the cut in Gossip Girl.
Doesn't.
But for me, I mean, it's a great place to be outside, but also still, it's close to everything.
Yeah, and I want to ask a follow-up to that.
Mm-hmm.
What's the most, you think, like, underrated spot in New York? I'm not talking about the Michael Scott go to Sbarro in Times Square.
Yes.
Not talking that. What do you feel like is an underrated spot? Maybe not as touristy, maybe just kind of a more local spot.
There's a coffee shop on the Upper East Side called Hutch and Waldo, or is it Waldo and Hutch? It's Australian. There's, for some reason, a ton of Australian places in New York, but this is the best one.
Okay.
And it's really close to Central Park, so it's a great place to go. You grab a sandwich, you grab a smoothie. They have this little outdoor cafe seating.
Okay. You
can people watch. And I think a lot of the hidden gems in New York are kind of like that. Okay. It's a restaurant, it's a coffee shop, it's whatever place makes you feel at home, makes you feel comfortable. And so for me, it was absolutely this little coffee shop that I would go to every weekend.
Okay.
Do my coffee thing, and then I'd go in Central Park. I think everyone kind of focuses on the big boat pond. Mm-hmm. The Jacqueline Onassis Reservoir is huge. There's a really small pond called the Turtle Pond. Okay. And they have turtles and fish, and it's just something you wouldn't expect in the middle of the city to have turtles and birds. And I would go sit by the Turtle Pond and read a book all day. So I would say the coffee shop Turtle Pond combo is my, when I really want to feel like I'm not a tourist, I'm actually a New Yorker, I do that.
That's definitely not the Sbarro. That's probably the exact opposite of that.
But then I hit the Olive Garden in Times Square.
Then you hit the Olive Garden in Times Square. And then you're right back to the tourist thing. Okay. I like it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think there's a lot of locations that are good for teen dramas, but do we feel like New York is like the king of spots? Like, I feel like Gossip Girl couldn't exist like in Dallas. It couldn't exist in LA. They had the OC like that kind of worked initially. Do we think Gossip Girl, like, is New York the perfect place for a teen drama?
So
or any drama?
What's interesting about New York and Gossip Girl is I feel like the city is as much a character as any of the actual characters were. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it was set in New York feeds into so many of the storylines and changes so many of the perspectives of the characters. Mm-hmm. And things that play on the show because it's New York wouldn't play if it was somewhere else. Yeah. And you've got a character from Brooklyn who's always trying to fit in with the kids from Manhattan. You've got the old money versus new money. And I think New York is a perfect place for it. Like you said, it wouldn't play anywhere else because it's just, I'm biased. I think it's the greatest city in the world.
That's okay. That's good.
And
I think a lot of people would agree with you.
I know. Yeah. There's at least 8 million people.
That's not exactly a hot take, but it's a good take. It's a good take.
It is a hot take when you're sitting in the middle of Denver.
It is. That's true. That's true.
But since New York is a character and one of the most important characters, I would say, it gives there's fashion and food and even the weather, just changing throughout the show. I remember watching, the OC, and it was, the exact same weather all season, year-round. And it just, it makes it feel even more, real, even though it's totally unrealistic. Yeah. That part of it's God, New York is awesome. It's a real place I can go. Okay. Get me all welled up here.
Big New York fan.
Big New York fan.
Okay.
We love it.
Mm-hmm. And you're 2 for 2, which you're off to
I'm not kidding. I'm still nervous. If
Okay.
I miss one of these, I'm never going to forgive myself.
I think this next one is going to be challenging.
Okay.
And
Okay.
we're going to go with the category here of movies.
Okay.
And the question is, before taking the role of Serena van der Woodsen, a very important role in the show, Blake Lively was primarily known for her work in what movie?
Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
That was quick, and that's correct.
So if Gossip Girl was my life in like middle school, early high school,
Yeah.
Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants was right before that. I was that kid who watched the movie like 4 times a day.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. My parents were like, anything else. Play something else. We don't care. Watch Die Hard. Watch The Godfather. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just if you watch Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants one more time, we're gonna lose it.
You nailed it. You're 3 for 3.
Yep.
And I think, the reason I picked this question specifically, not only because, you can make an argument that this is a, like, Blake Lively peak of her powers type role.
Right.
An incredible 5-year run. But, Serena's character moves from, her boarding school to New York. Blake Lively moved from LA to New York for the role.
Yep.
You moved from Denver via the U of A to New York. Tell me about the move. What inspired it? I think there's a lot of different options out there when you're first starting out. What attracted you to New York, which is, it's tough. You're not exactly, going someplace that's going to be easy, that's going to be
Make a ton of friends
super easy. Like it's tough. It's a tough place, to make it, as the saying goes. Take me inside that. Why was that?
So when I got my job with NBC, I sort of had some options. I could go to LA, I could go to New York, I could go to the parks in Orlando. And I just had this thought hanging over my head that if I didn't go and, for lack of a better term, shoot my shot in New York, I was going to regret it. I mean, I was 22. I don't have kids. You're not married. You don't have any responsibilities. Like, that is the perfect time to be a New Yorker. And then also, in a way, I had the safety net of kind of having built-in friends. I mean, I'm in a rotation program for my job, so there were 2 girls that I could live with. And that, to me, is the hardest part about being a real New Yorker. And, I really hope to go back soon when COVID ends. But making friends in a city like that is so hard. It is so, so, so hard. And so that's the daunting thing about it. But it's also one of those cities where you can be alone, but you don't feel lonely. At least for me.
Yeah.
Like, I would find myself alone. But even sitting alone at the coffee shop I mentioned, you're surrounded by people everywhere, and so you just don't get that lonely feeling.
Yeah.
And absolutely, in a way, I think Gossip Girl shaped my vision of New York. I think everybody has sort of an idea of New York in their minds. For some people, some people watch Sex and the City.
Yep.
Like, that's my New York. Some people, it's Friends. Some people, it's like grittier movies. Like I mentioned, mob movies like The Godfather. Everyone has that picture of New York. And mine just happened to come from Gossip Girl, which makes it look like the sparkliest, most wonderful place in the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, I knew I'd regret it if I didn't take my chance and go to New York. And it's been the best place I could have ever imagined for myself. Definitely not living like the kids in Gossip Girl. I think that's,
That's where we cross into fiction.
Yes.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Gossip Girl is incredibly wealthy, young adults.
Yeah.
And I think, but that's what's so great about New York is you've got that part of the city. You've got 1,000 other parts of the city.
Yeah.
And it's not just one thing. It can be a million different things, and it's whatever you want it to be. And so, yeah, I want it to be a little bit Gossip Girl, but I also want it to feel like home. I wanted to feel like a place that I'm comfortable, and it was that right off the bat, which I don't think I expected.
Totally. And I think it's, like you said, it's everyone has their own vision of it, and what matters is that you're there, you're shooting your shot, and whatever gets you there, gets you there. I mean, that's really what it is at the end of the day, because it's obviously not going to be like a show like A Billions or, like anything like that. It's going to be, what you end up making it, but I think taking that first step it's incredibly important.
Right. And I mean, even sitting there in my my 3-bedroom apartment with my 3 roommates and all of our rooms are the size of shoeboxes.
Yeah.
I still felt the way that I feel when I watch Gossip Girl.
Nice.
Like, it was still, that was my New York. For them, it's Park Avenue and New York Fashion Week, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I could still feel that living in my New York. That to me is like for me, the lasting effect of Gossip Girl in my life is feeling the way that I felt while watching it. I can now feel actually living my life.
Nice. I love that. I think you hit it right on the head. Part of the reason I also bring this up is I think, in the show and doing a lot of research, everyone talked about the fact that Blake Lively was probably the perfect person to play this role.
Yes,
Like,
there could have been no one else.
There was no one else.
No.
HBO Max thinking about doing a reboot. I think not a reboot, but some sort of continuation of it. If we had to pick someone to maybe, play that role again, are you thinking, is there anyone you can think of in particular who you'd want to play that role?
I like the way that HBO Max is doing it, which is not necessarily a reboot,
Exactly.
but like if we were to revisit this school now, what would it look like?
Yeah.
And a lot of things I think are going to be different, which is, one is the fact that Gossip Girl existed before really social media was a thing.
Yep.
So a lot of why this was so mysterious was she kind of predicted what happened in our lives after that with social media.
Yeah.
Is that, she would say, oh, I saw this person here, this person's doing this person's keeping this secret, where now I think social media is kind of...
There are no secrets.
No, there are no secrets.
Yeah.
So that I think is one thing that's going to be different. For people, I would love to see some more diversity in the cast.
I like it.
There was, I think, only one main cast member who was a person of color, who was like a recurring cast member on most of the seasons. And so that, I think, even in a place, like high-class New York society, it's still New York City, and it's still one of the most diverse places in the entire world. So definitely would love some more diversity. I don't want them to see, I don't want to see them bring Serena back.
Gotcha.
Like,
okay.
Serena, I want to be off doing her thing.
Yeah.
And I want the new crop. Like, new kids behaving badly.
Yep.
In a more diverse way.
In a more diverse way. Yep.
With the internet. Or now with social media, I want that aspect of it as well.
Okay. So now we're going to, for this next one, the category is going to be pilot episodes. By the way, you're 3 for 3. Off to an incredible start
Still
so
bad
far.
1,000.
I definitely thought at some point there was going to be a moment where I might trip you up. I was definitely thinking with question 3, had no idea you were a big Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants fan. Wish I could probably go back and rewind
That's
that
all right.
right
It's
now.
fine.
But this next category, question 4, is going to be, the category is going to be pilot episodes. So think back to the very first one.
Before the day my life changed.
Before a lot of kind of what we now have is the modern internet.
Yes.
And so in the first episode, you're seeing kind of this opening montage. Serena's back. People are receiving updates from Gossip Girl. And the question is, on what kind of phones are they receiving updates?
So, one character definitely had, Blair had like a maroon LG Envy. The kind that flips up like this.
Yep.
You got the keyboard.
Yep.
Chuck may have been on a Sidekick.
Okay. Throwback.
Yeah.
Big throwback. Sidekicks.
Someone had a BlackBerry.
Okay.
Dan Humphrey had one of those, like a 10 key, but it flips up. It wasn't the Motorola Razr, because those were pretty cool.
No, those were very cool.
And I think Blair had one of those at one point as well. But, like a silver, flip it up, get your notification from Gossip Girl. What are you looking for in specific?
I mean, I would give it to you. I think flip phones,
Okay.
any kind of slide-up phone,
Yeah.
would have taken any of that. So you're 4 for 4. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And the reason I bring this up is for the exact reason you talked about. Gossip Girl was around. It started really pre-social media, pre like a lot of what social media is now. Pre having an incredibly high-powered smartphone. Pre a lot of that stuff. And to a certain extent, it did predict kind of a lot of what's going on. Gossip Girl. How is it different in today's day and age? Of social media and smartphones. Is it feasible to even have a, ever kind of omniscient Gossip Girl type character? Right. What's your take on that? Because obviously, just having a blog and kind of that being the only thing you access on your flip phone is a totally different dynamic.
Yeah, so I'm not going to take credit for this take. There was I sent it to you, an incredible Vanity Fair article that was a 10-year anniversary piece that looked back. And one of the things that I mentioned was that these kids would probably be considered influencers today, and so there would be very little about their lives that you couldn't access on social media. And so one of the reasons that Gossip Girl was so influential and important in their lives is because that was the only place you could really get information about them without knowing them.
Yeah.
Now you could follow Serena Vanderwood's on Instagram. You could follow Blair Waldorf's Twitter. So that is what I'm really interested to see how they do in the new HBO. I don't know what it's called, a spin-off,
a continuation, something like that.
Something like that. And is that how do you keep the allure of Gossip Girl, and how do you keep her as this all-knowing, powerful source when, you know, you've got half these kids sharing their weekend plans on their Instagram stories?
Exactly.
So that it just happened to happen at the perfect time. Like, Gossip Girl really happened when people were starting to get information on their on cell phones, but it wasn't the information that we have today.
Exactly.
And so in a way, I think they were starved for more. It's like,
Yes.
here's what we can get. We can get this Gossip Girl blog. We want everything she has to offer.
Yeah.
At one point, she has like a map, you know, and you can live update where the characters, or not the characters, where, you know, they're technically real people in the show. You could update where they were. And yeah, all of that is just, I think it's closer to where we are now. It predicted in a lot of ways where we are.
And I think that's the eerie thing kind of about it, is like looking at it is like you said, like a lot of these people would be considered influencers now. They were probably considered some early kind of influencer types back then. And the fact that, you know, one blog, you know, on a very like incredibly niche topic could drive a lot of what's going on. And, you know, you see it today, whether it's, you know, kind of a funny account on Twitter or, you know, someone's like dedicated Instagram page. Like, it's incredible. Like I would say the hit rate on it is pretty close to 1,000, I would feel like, with the way they kind of drew that arc out entirely, because it was right before Facebook was a mammoth enterprise. It was definitely before Instagram ever was a thought in anyone's mind. And it's crazy to follow that arc.
And the article made a really interesting point as well, which is that that's one of the things that made the cast so interesting, is that it was before you could really know who they were through social media.
Yeah.
So they all had this kind of mysterious air around them, and that, you know, they play these characters that you're very drawn to, and they're very magnetic, but them as people are very hard to pin down, and that just makes you want even more of the show. And shows today don't have that.
They don't.
I mean, the second I watch a show and I'm interested in the cast, I go find them on social media.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can tell their political opinions. You can tell who they've dated. It's just, it was totally different watching it, and, you know, looking at a Blake Lively and going, I wonder what she's up to.
Yeah.
And now you don't have that. So that was another thing.
What character do you think that's happening today has the best Instagram? Which one are we thinking? Are we thinking Serena probably has the best Instagram? Blair? Maybe it's one of the guys? Is there anyone that you'd go follow instantly?
Instantly, I would follow Serena, though I would also follow Chuck. He's always in some weird exotic location doing horrible things. But I think his Instagram would be interesting, just to, hey, let's see what's happening in Thailand today.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's true. That's good. That's a valid point.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it. So you're 4 for 4. I'm really hoping that these next couple ones, I'm going to be a little embarrassed with my question writing skills. If you go,
it's all right. I'm the test pilot.
If you go 10 out of 10 on this.
I told you, this Gossip Girl was my life for so many years.
That is true. And this next one, the category is going to be guest stars. So I'm really going to test.
Okay. All right.
I'm really going to test your knowledge here.
Gossip Girl had some great ones.
They did. They had some great ones. And as you know, Lady Gaga did guest star on an episode of the show. And what hit song did she perform?
Bad Romance.
Wow, that was I think a little bit too quick.
And she was wearing a lace red outfit with a little red crown.
You nailed it. You're 5 for 5.
Can I get extra points for the outfit?
I can't get. I don't deal in extra points.
Okay.
But you nailed it. You hit it on the head. You're 5 for 5. And the reason I ask is I want to know. You know, you've been around New York. You've walked a lot around there. What is your most memorable celebrity sighting?
So I worked. My team is based out of 30 Rock, so lots of people in and out of there. Probably my favorite, I was walking out of 30 Rock one day, and I slammed right into a very large man. I look up, and it's Alex Rodriguez. And I'm like, oh my God, I just assaulted Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah.
This is like one of New York's kings.
I'm in so much trouble right now.
I think this is illegal in all 5 boroughs.
Yeah.
So I just go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. He's like, you're good. And then he turns around and he starts filming for, I don't know what they were filming for, but something for NBC Sports outside of 30 Rock. And I just walk home like, oh my God, everyone just saw me physically assault Alex Rodriguez. I'm never going to be allowed to walk in the city again.
It's over. That's it.
Yeah, it's over. That was it. I also smashed into Tom Cruise at an ice cream parlor.
Okay, do you know what kind of ice, did you get a chance at what kind of ice cream he was having?
So he was walking out. So he and his daughter had just finished.
Gotcha.
This ice cream place is known for their frozen hot chocolate. Okay. So maybe
something
along those lines.
Okay.
But again, I'm like, I need to watch where I'm going, because eventually I'm actually going to injure a celebrity.
There could be an other guy situation where like you do injure a celebrity, and
But I did love. I felt like, my dad is a huge Yankees fan. He's from Pennsylvania. Grew up a big Yankees fan, and we were always big Jeter fans. When it came to that sort of era of team, we were Jeter people.
Yep.
But even just a Yankee of that magnitude was so fun to see in New York, and then to accidentally almost take him out was also fun.
When you saw him, did you call him A-Rod? Did you refer to him as, or were you like, hey Alex, sorry about that, or were you just like
Mr. A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, sir?
Okay.
No, I didn't even. I was just like, oh my God. And I say assaulted. He didn't move. I bounced right off.
You just ricocheted right off. Okay.
It was like a bounce. He's very sturdy.
Yes.
And I just kind of, shock waved off of him. Okay. So I don't think he was actually. There was no chance of me injuring a professional baseball player.
He was friendly though. He was really friendly, super nice.
And it got right back into character in front of the camera for a little baseball rundown.
And then Tom Cruise outside of an ice cream.
And then Tom Cruise, yeah.
That's incredible.
And that would have been bad. Tom Cruise can handle it. He's an action star. His daughter.
They can't do that.
Can't.
You're going to be front page of some awful tabloid after injuring. Okay.
Yeah.
But I like that's incredible. A-Rod, Tom Cruise. That's part of the New York experience. Little celebrity spotting.
Love that.
And you're 5 for 5 right now. So I think
feels so good. You know what? I had this weird thought that you were going to ask me the Lady Gaga question, because that cameo and that song was just such a pivotal part of the show that I don't know. It sticks out in my head.
But they had a lot of guest stars. I was looking. Hillary Duff was a guest star at one point.
Jared Kushner
and
Ivanka
Trump
show up.
As far as I was thinking about writing a question for that. I'm like, that did not age well. That appearance did not age
Mayor
well.
Bloomberg was in the finale. Also may not have aged well.
Michelle Trachtenberg from kind of a couple of Disney movies. She was a recurring cast member. She was great. Yeah. A lot of guest stars and absolutely kind of just a fun stacked cast of people.
Yes, and all kind of relative unknowns.
Yes.
I mean, you mentioned Blake Lively did Sister of the Traveling Pants. Super niche audience on that one.
Definitely, yeah.
You've got the 7 to 13-year-old girl market, and then nobody else.
And then no one else, yeah.
And then everybody else kind of was pretty unknown, and again, it just added. I don't think the show would have worked as well if it's like some big star.
Yeah.
It's just not as believable.
It's not. It's good when you have kind of a group of relatively unknown
and
type folks.
And that's just how you see them. Like, oh, that's Nate Archibald. There's no one else. That's who he is.
And I want to talk about now in this next category. It's going to be streaming question 6. Like I said, you're 5 for 5, and I want to talk about Penn Badgley.
Yes.
One of the other people. And as you know, Gossip Girl lives on forever on Netflix. Gonna move to HBO Max soon.
And I'm gonna have to get
And you're gonna have to get HBO Max. I'll see. I can maybe float you my password.
Pop up the $17 a month so I can watch Gossip Girl for the 10th time.
It's gonna be worth it though. And what other popular Netflix show does Penn Badgley also play a starring role?
He was in You seasons 1 and 2, and he plays basically the same character. It's just like if Dan and Serena broke up and his life kind of went downhill.
His life spiraled. It's a weird, kind of alternate timeline. So you're 6 for 6, by the way. You nailed it.
Thank you.
But
I do love You. That was a great show.
It's a great show. But like you said, it's, I think the larger discussion is that the fact that a lot of these shows, like Gossip Girl, like The Office, like Parks and Rec, now have an incredible second life on these streaming platforms.
Yes.
So that
oh my gosh.
maybe, a girl who's a high school freshman who wasn't, was an elementary schooler when I think Gossip Girl possibly ended.
Yeah.
Can now go back and watch it. And what is your take on how that kind of affects the legacy of the show? Obviously, technology is going to be dated no matter what, but what's kind of your take on how that affects, you know, Gossip Girl going forward? And then obviously, like I said, it's going to live on HBO Max.
Yep.
For a long time afterwards as well.
So that one bums me out, the HBO Max thing. I think it was so much more accessible on Netflix.
Okay.
Even just for the reason that HBO Max has such a high price tag. I think that makes it inaccessible to a lot of people, full stop, but also people, you know, the younger generation who are maybe on a tighter budget. And I don't want to live in a world where kids haven't seen Gossip Girl.
Okay.
But I think that's kind of where we're going. But yeah, I think I sort of mentioned this to you. I had friends in friends in college who were guys who would never have gotten anywhere near Gossip Girl when it was on the air because it was, you know, a chick show. Who watched Gossip Girl in college because it was just so easy to recommend. It's like, it's on your Netflix. You might as well. We're all talking about it all the time. And they watched it and got hooked instantly. And so the longevity of the show, I think you're right. Some things haven't aged well. The technology makes me laugh out loud.
It does,
when I see, you know, them typing away on their Blackberries.
Exactly.
But a lot of the themes are still the same. And again, when New York is as big of a part of the show as it is, that's always going to be appealing. That's always going to be alluring. The fashion, some of it's still great, some of it's horrible, but that also makes it fun to watch.
It is.
Like the stuff that doesn't age well still is fun. I've loved that it's been on Netflix. More accessible for me. Don't have to buy the box set.
Exactly. Don't have to buy the box DVD. Do you think it's one of the all-time streamable shows as far as one you can, you know, binge watch or maybe watch an episode at a time? Are we putting it up there with your Offices, your Parks and Recs, your shows that you can just flip on whenever and roll right through?
I definitely can. I don't speak for others. I think it's harder because it is it's a 45-minute drama instead of a 22-minute comedy.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's not the type of thing. It's not Game of Thrones where there are 6,000 characters, 800 plot lines, and if you don't pay attention, you're going to miss it. You can have it on in the background while you do other things. You can just enjoy it for the absolute outlandish plot lines that you happen to pick up, or the music, the clothes. That is what makes it bingeable, I think. You don't really have to pay that much attention.
True.
It's not rocket science.
It's not rocket science. It's kind of a little bit of the same formula, kind of repackaged a bunch of different times, but it works.
It works.
No complicated plot lines. Just a lot of people having, you know, like you said, you know, people misbehaving in New York.
Pretty people acting terribly. Yes.
Okay, well, you're 6 for 6. And I think this next one, though, is absolutely going to stump you.
Okay.
The category is going to be table read.
Oh,
and so
no!
I'm going to have you finish. It's a famous line.
Okay.
It's one of the famous lines from the show. And I'm going to have you finish the line.
Okay.
Are you ready to finish the line? Okay. Here we go. Some might call this a fluster cluck, but on the Upper East Side, we call it...
Is it from the Thanksgiving episode?
I just ask the questions.
Some might call it.
I don't answer them.
A fluster cluck, but on the Upper East Side, we call it... Again, though, Gossip Girl is the best lines. That's a Gossip Girl line. I don't think it is, but I'm going to say, you know, on the Upper East Side, we call it Thanksgiving. Something like that.
That's incorrect.
Yeah.
That's incorrect. So the correct line is, some might call this a fluster cluck, but on the Upper East Side, we call it Sunday afternoon. And I'm just really intrigued, as you've been around New York, is the Upper East Side as cool as everyone makes it to be?
Great question. So, what's funny is, I think way back in ye olden days, the Upper East Side was less polluted, bigger streets, bigger homes than Lower Manhattan was.
Yeah.
And so that's why it traditionally was a wealthier area. You also have a huge stretch of the Upper East Side that's right on Central Park. So that also always means really expensive in the city. But what's interesting about the Upper East Side now is it's one of the places that's recommended to like recent college graduates with their first big kid job to find an affordable apartment.
Okay.
So like everywhere else in New York, there are pockets. One block is incredibly old, wealthy, families who have lived there for 200 years.
Yeah.
And then right next to it is an apartment that me and my roommates could afford on our starter salary.
Yeah.
It is very residential. It's not like, Hell's Kitchen or the Lower East Side or anything like that where there's a ton of nightlife, bars, restaurants. There are some nice restaurants, but it has like a neighborhood feel.
Okay.
So a lot of families live there. We lived in Midtown East, so just south of the Upper East Side. And it was great. I mean, like I said, I would go up there for my coffee shop. Great way to get into Central Park. But I think Gossip Girl makes it look like it's all, it's $15 million townhouses and everybody's driving a Lincoln Town car. And it's absolutely not that. Like, if you want to live in the Upper East Side, that's a great place to live. It's a great place to have a residential feel. Then, the closer you get to the Central Park, you're going to have those houses that the Gossip Girl characters would have lived in.
Okay. And the reason I also bring up this line is it's in reference to brunch. Brunch is, a staple everywhere. And I'm thinking, is the Upper East Side, is that if we're ranking our places to have brunch?
The brunch?
To have brunch, is the Upper East Side, is that in the top 3, the top 2? Is that number 1? Where does that fall as far as the best places? It doesn't even have to be in New York, but I feel like it's got to be at least in the top 5 places to have brunch.
Yeah, again, you have that kind of residential feel.
Yeah.
Like, if you're down in, like, the Lower East Side, it can feel a little grimy during the day. And not in, like, it's it's an incredible neighborhood. There's some awesome architecture, but we used to go out there at night. Yeah. And so during the day, it was always like, oh, it doesn't look as good during the day. But that was, some of the most incredible restaurants are also down there. So I'm trying to think of our favorite brunch places. We did a lot of brunching in Lower Manhattan. I don't even think I've ever brunched in the Upper East Side. Brunched in the Upper West Side.
In the Upper West Side, okay.
It's so... I mean, I have my coffee shop. That's brunch. I'm not gonna say it is. Okay, people who actually live in the Upper East Side would come for my throat when I say that.
They're definitely there's people who, if we have anyone in the Upper East Side listening, first of all, hello.
If bodying Alex Rodriguez didn't do it, that is gonna do it.
Smearing the Upper East Side as a brunch spot.
That's gonna do it.
That could get you in some hot water. We can see what we do about maybe cutting that. I don't know. No promises. No promises to our editing team. What's your go-to brunch? What is it's anything you can have. What's your go-to brunch meal?
Like food-wise?
Food-wise. We can do food and drink. I mean, that's part of the brunch experience.
For one thing, I do not brunch before noon.
Okay.
For me, an ideal brunch includes sleeping until I physically cannot sleep any longer.
Gotcha.
So, we're post-noon. I'm not a big sweet for breakfast. Okay. I'm not going to do the pancake. I'm not going to do the French toast.
Respect that.
I love a good Benedict.
Okay.
Just the least healthy thing on the menu, like a chicken and waffles kind of thing.
That's classic. You can't beat it.
You can't beat it. And then like a bottomless mimosa situation with the squad.
I love that. Chicken and waffles, I feel like that's an underrated, I think definitely an underrated brunch food for sure. Because
biscuits and gravy.
That's a great one. Another great one.
If you look at the menu, you're like, oh my god, that's gonna clog all the arteries. That's what
we go with.
That's what we go with. You're not at brunch to have the salad.
Yeah, we're not doing a fruit cup and a
coffee.
I'm
gonna have a parfait and an orange juice.
Because it's probably gonna be maybe your only meal of the day.
Exactly. That's the other thing. Eco-friendly in New York.
Yes.
Brunching is an efficient way to save some money.
I love that. I think
you brunch pretty late and then maybe you have a granola bar.
You have a granola bar. Maybe you have some noodles or something just something light, something easy. Okay, I like that. I think chicken and waffles, that's a very strong, very, very strong brunch. I like it. I really, A+.
Thank you.
So, Upper East Side chicken and waffles, something probably needs to be penciled in at some point. I feel like you got to do that at some point, right?
I know.
It's okay.
I'll get back there. I have friends who live up there, and they just always come down to me.
Yeah.
I think it's, if you kind of get used to hanging out in one spot, like we kind of just got used to hanging out in the Lower East Side, you're more inclined to look for restaurants there. Or if you're going somewhere else, you pass by something that you think, oh, I want to come back here. So it is sometimes hard to branch out.
Okay, but that's fine. That's fine. Branching out, we're doing chicken and waffles, Upper East Side.
Yeah.
Next time you're in New York. Yep. I like that. So you're 6 for 7.
I hate that.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of okay with it right now.
Because I was definitely
my biggest fear in writing these, I was like, oh, just don't go 10 for 10. But this next one I think you're gonna like, because there's a lot of connections here to you, to the show, and in general. And the category is gonna be significant others.
Great.
So Aaron Rodgers, quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, once got which famous Gossip Girl star's significant other tickets to a Packer game? So this is the significant other of the
Okay,
star.
so Aaron Rodgers got a Gossip Girl star's significant other tickets.
Tickets to a game. And who was the significant other? And remember, you do still have a jump ball. You still have a lot of kind of things.
I should have used the jump ball on that last one. Okay, so I'm guessing the significant other or the Gossip Girl star?
The significant other.
So it is someone we know.
It is.
I'm going through who they've dated.
Yes.
Blake Lively dated Leonardo DiCaprio for a while, which was just so much for my little heart. Blake Lively also has dated Ryan Reynolds for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be one of them. But who would want to go to a Packers game? Leo wouldn't. I'm going to use a jump ball.
You use your jump ball?
But if you give me Ryan Reynolds and Leo DiCaprio as my two options, I'm going to lose it.
No.
I will storm out.
Your two options are going to be, so Ryan Reynolds is one of the options.
Good.
And then the other one is the other person on the set that Blake Lively dated, Penn Badgley.
Ryan Reynolds.
That's correct. That is correct. And the reason I ask is because we're taping this on a Thursday, so football
Season, baby.
It's 6:47. Football has probably just kicked off with all the pregame stuff. How excited are you for football to start up? And as a follow-up, what's your prediction for the Packers this year?
So I am excited. I think there's something weird about it this season and kind of all the controversy that's led up to it. Knowing that if the stadiums have fans at all, that it's going to be empty.
Yep.
I guess it's that way with every sport, but something about football feels especially weird. With college football not happening for a lot of conferences. That being said, I am excited. I'm in a couple fantasy football leagues, so at least that feels normal like every other year.
Very true.
As for the Packers, we've talked about this. I think Aaron Rodgers told that coaching staff and team management over and over and over that he needs receivers. First and foremost, a good running back wouldn't hurt.
Yep.
He's got nobody to throw to.
Yep.
And that was his one, I think, and at this point, it's not like he's untested. They know what he can do if he's got some talent around him.
Yeah.
So for them to show up in the first round and draft a quarterback, that was... I took it as a slap in the face.
Okay, so then he definitely did.
He definitely
did. Okay.
And then all the rumors about him wanting to be traded, I think, and you and I have talked about this, it could either go either way. I mean, he could either play lights out, just as out of spite. I'm going to prove something now.
Yeah.
Or he gets paid either way,
Yeah.
so he's just going to phone it in. I think my prediction is I think it's kind of going to be a middle ground. I think I don't see a huge season for them.
Okay. Are they making the playoffs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they make the playoffs.
Gotcha.
I feel like that comment's not going to age well. But I'm a fan.
We do have it recorded now to live on forever.
Yeah,
So
I'm a fan. I want it. I think it's more wishful thinking that after that absolute nightmare of a draft that they can make something out of it. But when your quarterback has told you so many times what he needs, and then you go and draft a replacement quarterback, that's I was like, all right, and we're turning the draft off.
Yeah.
So my prediction is yes, they make the playoffs.
Okay. Well, we've got it on tape now, so 16 weeks from now, we're going to have to dig that one up and see how that take
dig
aged.
that up.
But
I'm stressed.
More importantly, you're 8 for 9. I'm interested to get your take on this last question. I think this one is going to stump you. I think this one is.
Should I have saved my jump ball? I was going to guess Ryan Reynolds anyway.
Well, you used your jump ball.
No, I know, but I'm saying should I have saved it?
You may have. I don't know. We're going to see. So, style, huge part of the show.
Yeah.
And the category is going to be style icons.
Okay.
And the question is, who was the inspiration behind Blair Waldorf's style?
Is it Audrey Hepburn?
That's correct.
Woo!
That is correct. Audrey Hepburn. 100% correct. That puts you at 8 for 9 right now, which is incredible. And again, the reason I bring this up, and you've talked about it, the style on the show is so much a part of it. There are outfits where you look at it and you're like, I'm never going to wear that. I would never. But there are, and I looked back at it today, there are a lot of outfits where you're like, I could rock that.
That's still incredible.
That still is trendy. And you know, how did it influence your style? How does it influence your style still today? You know, how does it influence style as a whole? I'm just interested to get your take on that.
Yeah. So again, not my take. This is just in general knowledge, but I think it kind of showed a lot of ways that men can dress. You've got characters who are literally always in suits for probably no reason. Like they're high schoolers. You don't have business that you're attending to.
Exactly.
But even then, you know, they're wearing nice sweaters. They're putting effort into their appearance, men and women. And in middle school, where you just feel so painfully awkward and none of your clothes fit right because you're too tall all of a sudden or whatever, seeing that there's like a light at the end of the tunnel for that, it's like, okay, this is how people can dress. Like, this is what fashion can look like. And even the characters who, you know, in the show who didn't come from the same money still looked incredible.
Sure.
Obviously, they still have a very wealthy styling team designing the clothes, but everybody in the show had such a distinct style, and that was also fun. Again, in middle school, everyone's trying so hard to dress the same.
Very true.
Even in high school, everyone's trying really hard to dress the same. And so to look at this and say, yes, Blair Waldorf is very Audrey Hepburn. She's always in nice dresses and pearls, and then you've got Serena, who's in more of like a boho chic kind of look. You've got all these different characters in their different styles. It kind of says, hey, you know, they're this fabulous, and they all have their own style.
Yeah.
If you want to pursue your own style too, you know, what's stopping you?
Yeah.
Even, you know, the kind of funny part looking back is they go to a private school where they're wearing uniforms, air quotes, but all of them totally change them up to make it their own style.
Yeah. And
just something as simple as that was cool for a young person, like. And I feel like what I don't want this to come off as is to say these people are role models. None of them were. The characters were horrible people.
Yes.
They did horrible things. Not how children or adults, for that matter, should act.
Very true.
But there were still things that, you know, make you feel hopeful when you watch. And one of them is, I can have my own style.
Yeah.
And I can look incredible and wear the things that I want to wear, not just what everyone else is wearing.
Very
so
true.
That is what I loved about the fashion.
Are there any of those outfits you'd still wear today? Is there any
Oh my
look
gosh.
you're thinking of where you're like, I could definitely rock that around NYC
Yes.
right now?
Not around NYC, but
Just in general.
they
I guess.
always went to these incredible events and wore dresses that it's like, who would ever, like, when would normal people ever be able to wear those?
Yeah.
My favorite episode 1, season 2, they're at a party, and Serena's wearing just this long white dress, and it's so simple, but it's so beautiful. And for a show that's really known for like over the top crazy fashion, to see her in something so simple was really nice. I'd probably say that sticks out in my head. All the handbags. I mean, I'm not a handbag. Who's a handbag person, right?
Yeah,
like you
it's
got
tough.
one purse, you throw it all in there. And
we're not picking handbags
no,
here.
I'm not choosing a handbag.
Yeah.
But they always, you know, you've got the outfit and you got the little handbag.
Okay.
That was fun.
I like it. Well, you're 9 out of 10. You're 8 out of 9.
That bothers me more than you know.
You're 8 out of 9. In this last category, it's your essay question.
Okay.
So with this, I'm going to have you defend a take that you have had about Gossip Girl.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, whatever. Like,
Okay.
we cannot do a filibuster type situation here.
I'm
We
just
can't just go on forever.
gonna keep going until it was like on the AP exams where they're not going to penalize you for getting it wrong.
No.
You just keep going till you get it right.
No, we're not doing that, but I'm
Yep.
going to give you some time.
Okay.
And the question is, why does Gossip Girl deserve to go down as an all-time great television show?
Okay.
Can start whenever.
So, I think in my head, Gossip Girl goes down as an all-time great television show because it showed young people in a way that I think TV shows have been afraid to show young people. You know, you mentioned things like the OC, and they kind of went there a little bit, but the things that these characters went through, even though they were incredibly wealthy and doing it dressed better than all of us, everybody has those same, I'm not even going to say the same issues. Some of them are like dealing drugs. Not the same issues, but everyone kind of has that same growing up experience. And to see characters on TV who are going through all these things, but absolutely own it and come out the other side stronger and figure out a way around their issues. I loved that. For me, it also was such a big talking point with my friends.
Yeah.
You know, you'd come to school on Wednesday after it was on the Tuesday night before, and it was just such an easy thing to talk about. It was a natural conversation starter. The fashion was amazing. It gave me some incredible music that I never knew to listen to.
Okay.
It just showed the good and also really the bad of being a teenager in a way that I'd never seen before on TV as a teenager. And knowing that in a way, like whatever you're going through, it could be so much worse. You could have this gossip girl following your every move. That maybe having all the money in the world is not going to buy you happiness because look at these people.
Yeah.
It was exactly what I needed as a very, as a young person who wanted to be able to kind of find my own style and not know how to do that, or even if I could do that. It was a parent's worst nightmare. I'm going to say that right now. But that made it all the more fun to watch as a kid, you know?
Very true.
So it was a lot of things, kind of a culmination of a lot of little things all happening together at the same time. I miss new Gossip Girl episodes.
Okay, well, you're 9 out of 10. Congratulations.
I'm so
That is
upset.
100% correct. You absolutely aced it. One final question to wrap up. You picked this show today, and I think you've alluded to it. You know, why was this at the top of your list to run the Gauntlet on? Why did you feel so confident in your knowledge in this show?
Because
as opposed to everything else?
really has been something that has been in and out of my life since I was, how old would I have been? 14. I watched it on and off. You know, I replay it all the time on Netflix. I have gone to New York and just caught myself so many times going, oh, this is where this happened in Gossip Girl.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember them being here in Gossip Girl. It was something I felt that I could confidently speak to. And still, share a little bit. Like I said, I'm not the first one to be spreading how great New York City is.
Yeah.
Guys, I found this great new place. It's
Exactly.
so cool. But I do love sharing that New York is a scary place, but also it's such an incredible place if you let it be that for you. And yeah, Gossip Girl just, it has my heart.
Okay. Well, that's perfect. This has been a ton of fun. Your score, you can go home proud, 9 out of 10.
I'm not proud. I missed one.
You missed, that's okay, but you're 9 out of 10. So now, whereas with other podcasts you kind of leave and it's like, oh, like that was fun. You're going to leave with a score today.
I know.
And it's going to be compared now against every person that run the Gauntlet after you.
Please write everyone else's questions like so hard. I want to be the winner.
And we're gonna evolve. We're gonna make it work. But you're 9 out of 10. You're top of the leaderboard right now.
Great.
And this has been a ton of fun. Absolutely love this. Thank you for kind of being our test pilot for this.
Thank you. It's a great format.
And we're looking forward to maybe having you on a different open mic thing. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'll be around.
But this was excellent. This was awesome. And yeah, go Gossip Girl.
We love it. Go Gossip Girl. Go to New York if you haven't been.